I created this mosaic pot by decorating a ceramic pot with a broken plate. And I'm here to show you how I did it. I started off with a broken plate. This one has some lovely blue colors on it that I thought would look great. And then I have this white ceramic pot. I believe it's a plant pot, even though it does look like a teapot. I start by taking my wheeled glass nippers and cutting the plate up in some more manageable sizes. I highly recommend using a tool like this one for this step. It's the safest and easiest way to do it. I'm cutting it up into quite small pieces so that I can fit them neatly like puzzle pieces on the pot. There is this edging on the plate though, where it curves, and I'm not going to use this part. I prefer them to be flat. And I just continue cutting up quite a lot in the beginning so that I have something to work with when I start. I could have cut them straight into this pot, but yeah, I just add them afterwards. I'm going to add some glass flowers as well. And I'm going to use a bead for the middle that I'm going to cut in half as well. It's a glass bead, so that lets me cut it with these nippers. I'm going to then use this tile adhesive that I put into a little piping bag so that I can easily and in a controlled way apply it to the pot. I prefer to work in small areas so that the adhesive doesn't dry before I add the pieces. I'm going to add 2 flowers on each side, but I'm going to start just with the one side so that I can still place the pot down while I'm working on it. Now I can start adding the pieces of plate. I decided to use the edge of the plate along the top edge. I like the look of this, and it also gives a nice rounded edge at the top. I had this little pot lying around that I could just use to balance the pot on that I was working on. And then I simply just continue. It's sort of like doing a puzzle, and I use my nippers along the way if something doesn't quite fit like I wanted to. But otherwise I just start filling in all the gaps, making sure to leave just a few millimeters of space in between for grout later. That was the first side done. A few hours later, when the first side is dry, I can start working on the other one. I'm doing the same pattern on this side, and just like I used the edge of the plate along the top rim, I'm also going to do that on the bottom rim of the pot. I did my best to make the edges around the spout and the handle smooth, and then I let it dry completely until the next day. At this point there's still big gaps in it, so we're going to fill those out with grout. I'm using this Mapei grout. You don't have to use this brand, you can also use a regular one from the hardware store. Then I take just an old plastic pot. I've already used this one before to mix grout in. I still find it so hard to estimate how much I need. But for this one I'm going to go for 2 spoonfuls. Now it's time to add some water. You don't need particularly much, but some grouts take quite a while before the water actually mixes well, so it's good to mix properly before you add more. I have an old knife that I always use to mix my grout. Once you have a thick paste like this, it's good to go. Grouting is usually the messiest part, but it's also fun. You can use various tools to spread it out. I sometimes use a spatula as well as this knife, but generally I also end up using my hands. If you want to protect them more than I do, then you can use a thick rubber glove as well. Once I've filled in all the gaps thoroughly, this is what it looks like. Quite messy still. So now I just use a damp cloth to wipe off the excess. After that, I leave it for about 20 minutes and then I come back with an old piece of fabric to polish it. And that's actually the last step. Now we're all done. The last thing I did was bring it to a garden center to find a flower that fit in it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.